It is June 18th, 2025, and Iran is not backing down as the nation's supreme leader came out and in a televised address earlier, he refused Trump's demand for unconditional surrender. He also noted that while Iran and the US were engaged in nuclear talks, that Iran was never posing any kind of military threat. And on top of that, he called out this ongoing threat from the US that it's planning to get officially directly involved in this war on Iran, even though we all know that it really already is. And he pointed to the fact that if the US does get directly involved, then Iran will pursue irreversible damage. On top of that, he also called out Israel's weakness, the fact that they cannot stand without the US providing constant support. So, what does this mean for where the war stands? What do we know about Iran's capabilities, about how many missiles they have left, or how close they are to being on the verge of regime changes? I'm sure you all have seen the discourse ongoing online. Well, we got into all of the latest with a special guest earlier. So, let's take a listen to that conversation now. Joining me now to discuss is Dr. Marwa Osman, a university lecturer, journalist, and TV host. Marwa, thanks so much for taking the time to join me.
It's a pleasure, and I'm very happy to join you after a long period of, let's say, being away from TV interviews.
Yeah, and I do not blame you. I know that a lot has happened over the last 6 months, and I'm glad that I get to talk to you again and get your take on all of the latest happening right now. And I want to start off with what we heard from Iran's supreme leader in a televised speech where he refused Trump's demand to unconditionally surrender. And he also noted that while the US and Iran were engaged in nuclear talks, that Iran was not posing any kind of military threat, right? They came into these talks with good faith. They intended to make a deal. Clearly, the US did not on its end. We also heard from Khamenei, he warned that any direct American military intervention will bring about irreversible damage. And he pointed out that American engagement is a sign of Israel's weakness. So, what do you make of his speech, and what does it tell us about where Iran stands right now?
It's a really very important question given the fact that it started with we want to have talks with Iran. The talks are going well with Iran. Suddenly, good girl Israel for bombing. You're doing a great job. Literally 72 hours later, this should stop. Iran should surrender now. The usual rhetoric that we hear, especially from a personality like Trump. And I don't want to. I want to be as objective as possible when discussing this issue because people know where I stand. They know my political affiliation and my ideology. But I want to talk from a strategic point of view here. We're talking about geopolitics. When you demand from an entity or a militia or a nation to surrender, there has to be certain criteria that fit the surrendering phase, meaning that nation, for example, or the army of that nation is completely unable to reciprocate the strikes that it's handling on its land. It cannot operate properly. Chaos and havoc are taking to the streets, taking to the command centers. But on reality, and as well, not having anyone else to help out in case they need someone to help out. If you reverse it on the Israeli side, you see that Israel supposedly it is showing the world that it had on its own decided to strike Iran after having Netanyahu since not, you can find videos as old as 1987 with Netanyahu speaking about invading Iran and doing a regime change because he doesn't want to see another important big nation becoming stronger by the year after the revolution, the Islamic revolution in Iran. So it's not new. Every time Netanyahu comes to power, he raises his voice and calls for war against Iran. So he wanted the people to see that he did this on his own, and that this was a priority for him to secure Israel's national interest and national security. But in reality, Iran was not even threatening Israel's national security because if you remember back in April, Israel already bombed Iran and with more than 1,000 strikes. thousand raids, but Iran did not respond. They kept saying we will respond at the right time because they wanted to give the so-called talks with Trump a chance. Because at the end of the day, what nation would want to choose war instead of actual talks? So Netanyahu was just bored. He didn't want to wait anymore. He found that it's a chance. He's been doing this for the past 22 months, killing everyone everywhere. Syria, Lebanon, Gaza, ongoing genocide, the West Bank completely destroying people's homes and evacuating them from the land to seize it, control it, and occupy it. Even Jordan, on the border between the occupied Palestinian territories and Jordan, many people were killed by Israeli fire. And then you see what happened also in Iraq, how many strikes over the past 2 years, especially in early 2024, Israel also conducted against Iraq and Yemen. They weren't able to stop the siege that was put forth and basically imposed by the Yemenis in the Bab el-Mandeb area and the Red Sea area. But he found it like no one's really pressuring him to stop. So now would be a perfect time for him. It would be an opportunity for him to go ahead and start something with Iran. And even if he can't finish it, he'll just start screaming and say, help me, help me. And a lot of people will come along and run along to help out. Now, let's see what happened in Israel. Israel initiated the strike. And for 13 hours, it kept saying the regime has fallen. We have taken control of the Iranian airspace. We have hit the important nuclear facilities in Iran and whatnot. And then 13 hours later, military intervention by Iran, and it's not intervention; it's a military retaliation by the Islamic Republic of Iran began, and we started seeing missiles, ballistic missiles, and hypersonic missiles fall on Tel Aviv for the first time in its history since its initiation, since its birth, illegal birth in our region. So Netanyahu knew that there will be some sort of retaliation, but he never expected it to go as far as we are seeing right now. He never expected that Iran would have the intelligence and the capabilities to strike very important and truly very sensitive buildings and areas and ports and airports inside the Israeli controlled territories of occupied Palestine. So during this period, we started hearing at the first 24 hours, we all heard from France, from the UK, from Europe in general, saying that they stand with Israel and Israel has the right to defend itself against threats, despite the fact that they started this war. Then, when we started approaching the 48 to 72 hours, their tone changed. Trump leaving the G7 meeting, going and having an important high-level meeting with his own officials and moving destroyers and aircraft carriers, both in the Mediterranean and in the Persian Gulf. So if that indicates something, it indicates militarily that Israel is not in a good place. Okay, let's start there. Let's be objective about it, that Israel is not in a good place. Then over the past 24 hours, we keep hearing from Trump tweets that shout shout the personality of a person who really has no idea what he's doing. He's just tweeting as if this is another rally of his in one of the southern states of the United States of America, but it's not. It's something serious. This can get to a point where you will see, and I mean it, American caskets going back home with American soldiers. And who wants to see that? No nation wants to see that happening to its own daughters and sons. And you'll see interests and military bases being struck. And we've seen them before. If you remember the 2020 retaliatory attack against the Ain al-Assad air base in Iraq after Trump did a very risky move by assassinating Qasem Soleimani, the head of the forces, of the Al-Quds forces in Iran. So we have seen before Iranian ballistic missiles, not hypersonic, ballistic missiles, target and completely destroy Ain al-Assad airbase. So with the movement, with the military movements that are happening in the region, with the aircraft carriers, and with all that's happening over the past 24 hours, we keep hearing Trump saying that they now control the airspace above Iran. he said that. And since then, it's been 14 more strikes. And I mean batches of strikes, not 14 missiles. I mean 14 batches of missiles that have been sent from Iranian territory towards the occupied Palestinian territory. So when you hear Trump calling for a surrender, and then you hear the highest office in Iran, who is the leader of the revolution, and the West don't understand this. I want to talk a bit about this point, Rachel, because they don't understand what position really Imam Sayyid Ali Khamenei actually holds. They think that it's something. I'm not disrespecting the Vatican, but they think it's a spiritual position like the Vatican that he holds, and he just waves and has no say in what's going on. No, he's basically the chief of staff, the head of military brigades. He's the head of the IRGC. He's the head of the Iranian armed military. He's the head of the political. So we're dealing with a person who actually has a say and a decision in every aspect of Iran's national security. Mind you, besides that, on a strategic, high executive level in Iran, making things happen, basically, he is the head of the Shia Islam ideology sect, part of the Islamic religion. So he is not only an important figure for the Iranians. If you, I don't, I'm not going to ask you if you are a believer or not, if you believe in the Orthodox Church or the Catholic Church or not. But at the end of the day, those who believe in the Catholic Church worldwide view the Vatican, they view the Pope as the highest figure of the church, right? So Imam Sayyid Ali Khamenei is the highest figure in the Shia sect of Islam worldwide, not only in Iran. And after what Iran did and how it is keeping its promises, the Sunni Muslim world is seeing that Iran is being truthful to its promise. And they are supporting it. I've been following the commentary sections in multiple Arab nations. I didn't even have the time to go and see for example, the Asian Muslim countries or the Muslims in Europe or the Americas or in Africa, but I've been following closely the comment section in the Arabian Peninsula and in the Levant, because these people are the ones who have been brainwashed for over 40 years to hate one another based on sect. But then again, now, 40 years after that brainwashing process, they found themselves rooting for Iran. Every time a rocket and missile flies in the air, you see people from Iraq to Kuwait to Syria to a couple in Syria. Let's be objective about that. But in Jordan, I mean, the Jordanian king is actively intercepting Iranian missiles and drones from reaching Israel, and they don't want to hide it. Even in Egypt, and that's the very, very important part, because if you remember in May, Egypt had a military drill with the Chinese, and Israel was all over the place because it was seeing Chinese jet fighters, war jets flying besides the pyramids, and they were all over the place. And since then, Egypt militarily has made a big move on the border with occupied Palestine. You could read extensively about that because Egypt knows that if in case Iran was not able to handle this war, either they lose the war, surrender to it, or go to a peace talk, Egypt will be next. And after that, it will be Iraq. And after that, it most probably will be Turkey, because Israel does not want to allow any major country in the region to have any kind of military capabilities that can at any point threaten the existence of the Zionist entity. Despite the fact that they're really good friends with both Egypt and Turkey, but you're never a really good friend with the Zionists. This is an ideology that believes that they are superior, that they have the upper hand, that everyone should be abiding by what they say in the region around them, not to mention the entire world. I mean, up until now, the UN has done zilch, nothing, not even a proper statement from the United Nations. So when you look at these, both issues that are happening, and then you listen to what Sayyid Ali Khamenei was saying today, saying, no, don't even think that we will go to talks, not even surrender. And he was telling him, he was saying openly that Iran has not even started using its full capabilities, and most probably it doesn't need to use its full capabilities. I mean, if they start using the new kind of weaponry, the weaponry that is similar to, like, the missiles and the rockets that are similar to the bombs that were dropped here in Lebanon to assassinate Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah, which are GBU bombs. Iran has missiles that have the same power of that GBU bomb. So can you imagine if they start throwing bombs that go at least 60 meters below the surface of the earth? Israel wouldn't stand a chance. And I'm not saying this because I do not agree with the Israeli policies in the region. I'm talking militarily. And then you have a position coming from the Zionist government saying that they will not stop until they make sure they have a set of goals that they set for themselves that are beyond unattainable. Because if you see the goals that they set for Gaza, 360 square meters, which is nothing, they still haven't been able to attain it. Missiles are still being launched from Gaza into the interior occupied Palestinian territory, Lebanon. You see Hezbollah is doing nothing. And we don't know when Hezbollah will decide to do something. But on the ground, what was Israel really capable of doing? Until the last day of November 27, Israel was not able to take one village on the border with occupied Palestine. So did they attain their goal? I don't think so. They say that they have achieved or that they have succeeded in preventing Hezbollah from having weapons and arms in the southern part of the Litani River. And they have the Lebanese army and a commission led by a U.S. General to make sure that that is happening, besides the UNIFIL in Lebanon, the UN Peace Corps, supposedly Peace Corps. And still, they really don't know if it is 100% achievable or not. And this is something that they have to figure out if and when missiles start raining again from Lebanon. And I don't think we're going to see that anytime soon, because Iran is still completely able to take control of the Israeli airspace at the moment, and using its missiles, I mean. So when you look at those both positions, you realize that what the Americans are asking of the Iranians is out of the question. And what the Iranians are doing is basically retaliating to the initiation of war by Zionist Israel, attacking and killing scores of commanders, scientists, civilians, and then bombing civilian infrastructure, which is the civilian nuclear facilities in Iran, as per what the IAEA report says. It's not me saying. I'm not claiming that it's a peaceful civilian infrastructure. This is what the IAEA is saying. But there's a big unknown happening in the region, Rachel. That's for sure. But what we know are the facts. The fact is Israel is bombing areas in Iran. Iran is retaliating. None of them has stopped so far. If the United States of America would want to get directly involved, because they are already involved, it's nearly impossible for the Israeli armed forces to target Iran the way that they have been targeting alone. It's nearly impossible. It's militarily impossible. And it's impossible for them to gather intel on their own. That's why the Cyprus bases of the UK and the US are there to provide this logistical and intel support for the Israeli entity. So far, if this escalates into a direct involvement, I mean, America announcing that it's going to war with Iran, I think that the cost will be very high. Yes, Iran might have to endure a lot of strategic hits and possibly a lot of civilian casualties, because we all know how the Americans operate. They operate with carpet bombing. We've seen they took out the lives of more than 700,000 civilians in Iraq, which later, after 20 years of occupation, ended up being 1.5 million who were killed either directly in military battle or indirectly due to the siege and the blockade and the policies of the US in Iraq. So they are fully capable of hurting. But still, do you think that if they do so, they will be able to set foot on the ground in Iran? For me, that is something far from happening.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you bring that up because that's another thing that I've been kind of looking at when it comes to the region and going, okay, I know that much of the focus over the last 6 months has been on the axis of resistance, on all of the ways that it has been hurt by Israel's attacks. But when you look at what's happening right now, you're going, okay, they're not completely down and out. And that's despite all of the discourse online, which I think has been interesting. And I know that this is part of how Israel does it, right? They have to have the psychological warfare. There has to be the talk about regime change in Iran and, oh, Iran is completely out of missiles. Israel has destroyed all of them, and so on and so forth, even as those attacks keep coming. But I
Yeah,
mean, it's no secret that the West has spent years trying to sow public divide in Iran through crushing sanctions, through support for protest, and so on and so forth. But how do you view the state of Iran as it stands right now? And a lot of this commentary of, oh, the government there is about to fall apart any day now, when, as you were noting there, this is not just about Iran, this is about the region as a whole.
true. And look, you can never really have an idea about what's happening in any place on the world if you don't have direct contact with the people living there. It can be people who are severely attached to the regime, who are completely loyal to the regime, or people who are they oppose, they are opposition in the regime. And I have friends from both camps in Iran because it's not about it's about the human behavior, and the opposition in Iran is one of the purest oppositions there is to any kind of governance in the world, putting aside the Mujahidi Khalq and the terrorists who are ready to ignite fire in authority buildings or start weaponizing their movements on the ground. No, I'm talking about actual people who are opposition, who are religious, very religious, but they don't want to see this kind of governance in Iran. And there are the all the way revolutionary commitment to the current authority. So I'm talking to both people. First of all, because I want to make sure that they're okay, they're safe. Same way that they were always making sure that I was safe when we were during the bombs coming from Zionist Israel. The US made, the UK made, and the European made bombs that were falling on me and my family and my people and my community. So, firstly, as a human being, I have a duty to make sure that they are safe. Second of all, I need to understand the public basis in Iran, the level of the public, how they are dealing with the situation. I'll tell you something. The first couple of days were very, very hard because they've never uh, heard an explosion in their lives before. They've never witnessed such kind of an attack on their land before. They've never been able to have plan A, plan B. Us in Lebanon, we have as big as plan D because we're used to it. So we have a plan. For example, let's say Israel issues one of its terrorizing maps against the Beirut suburbs that it's going to bomb this area and that area. What should we do? Now we have a contingency plan. How we deal with this, where we go. How first of all, how which ends or which areas we should be seeking, which streets, how we leave. We have already bags that are packed at all times because we need to be ready to leave to keep the children safe, for example. We have a solid place to go to if in case we need to leave the area. How are we going to communicate with the family, make sure that the extended family is also safe? This is something that the Iranians have not been used to. So the first couple of days, it was very hard for them. But later on, when they saw the level of impunity that the Zionist entity is working with and bombing civilian areas and the direct hit on the Iranian state TV, Sahar, I think her name is Sahar Milani, if I'm not mistaken, or I don't want to say the wrong family name, but I know her name is Sahar because my mother's name is Sahar. So I seeing her when the Iranian nation saw her standing firm, they gained a lot of bravery and resilience from that situation. And there are a lot of stories of how people are standing with one another. I shared one of the stories today on my timeline on X where people who were leaving the district that was being attacked in Tehran, because Tehran is divided into sectors, into district, and district one is where the major government buildings are set and the major TV base stations are set, and the biggest police stations are also set. So people who live in that area, basically in the western part and the southern part of Tehran, they were leaving, because when you have a kid, you don't want to leave him there listening to everything that's happening, terrorizing them. So on their way out, they would stop to shop, for example, to get essentials, to get something from the convenience store. And you know what the convenience store they started doing? It's like they are operating under a plan, but there is no plan. They decided to take out all the profit from all the anything that you want to buy. If you want to go to like a convenience store and buy some milk for your kids, some diapers, some water bottles, some essentials, food essentials, and medical essentials, they will just literally put the price of the cost that they are paying for that product without taking any profit for themselves. And the man who's telling the story, he said, while I was doing the shopping, I was calculating in my mind, I was doing mental calculations of the cost. And when he arrived, it was supposed to be 400 Iranian riyals and or tuman, 400 tuman. And the man just like swept up at, can you imagine like you making shopping for 400 US dollars and then you go to pay and the man tells you, no, it's 320. He literally just took off $80 from your receipt. And the man was like, I'm sorry, brother, but I think you did, you have some miscalculation. He said, no, I'm not taking profit from you. We are one nation. And that man was about to cry, talking about the resilience and the bravery and the brotherhood of the Iranian people. So how can you, I mean, I'm sorry to say this and to compare, but can you ever imagine this happening in the US, Rachel?
No,
Because
and
it's
that was
about,
exactly what I was thinking as you were saying this
yeah,
was this would never happen in the US. It just wouldn't because
exactly.
people would think, "Oh, well someone's going to take advantage of that." There's not unity there like what you're
We
describing there.
saw what happened during COVID, how the supermarkets were hoarding and not selling people what the essentials, and how they were increasing the prices of the essentials. And this is something that was supposed to happen in a country like Iran, but it didn't, because it has to do with the moral and ethical behavior of the collective community there. And this is what the West are fighting, and they don't understand that this is what they are fighting. They still don't understand why we here in Lebanon still stand with our resistance and we still say we are happy to lose everything. We did lose everything, Rachel. We lost people that we love so dearly, people that meant the world to us. We lost our shops, our businesses, we lost our houses. I mean, I spent 10 years between buying land and building my own house with my husband in Khiam, the Khiam that literally rubbed the noses of the Israelis in the dirt during the past war. Uh, it was miraculous that my house was still partially standing, but they didn't understand how we chose to immediately go ahead and fix it while knowing that the war can start at any time. This is our land. What do they expect? We lost people that we love. We're going to be thinking about stones, about land. This is our land. This is our houses. This is what the Iranian nation is thinking right now. Why am I talking about Iran and Lebanon? Gaza, 2.5 million, more than 100,000 killed and wounded and injured over the past 22 months. And people are there. And if they do open the border, I tell you, yes, we will see some sort of an influx outside of Gaza, but there are hundreds of thousands who left Gaza, who I talk to on a daily basis, who want to return to Gaza, rebuild their land. This is the spirit that we are talking about. This is what really the West does not understand, because we come from two different cultures, two different ideologies. And if they keep this up, the entire region will be on fire. Even the regime that have milked the taxpayers' money and gave it to Trump, they will find no safe place for them or their people, because Israel will not stop at anyone. It will start bombing east and west to make sure that it survives. And I don't know what the current regimes in the Arabian Peninsula are thinking, or in the Greater Levant, but I'm sure that they are very worried about what comes next. And I'm sure they know, but at the end of the day, when they are just employees put in place by colonial imperial powers, they really don't have a say, because if they try having a say, look, today Erdogan made a couple of statements. For me, I've always pinpointed Erdogan and accused him of being a Zionist. Because even during the worst days of genocide in Gaza, he kept the economic ties with Israel going. He doesn't really care. And he made sure to completely decimate the regime in Syria and bring about a Zionist-led regime that during the first week of it taking power, they said to Israel, take whatever land you want, bomb however you want, we are with you. So he made sure that the influence and the interest of Zionist Israel expands in the region. Look at what he said today. You can go ahead and search and see what Erdogan was saying today. He said, and I'm quoting here, he said that Netanyahu surpassed Hitler with his criminality because of the ongoing genocide. You know, this statement in our part of the world, it passes. It doesn't have a weight. It doesn't have an influence. In the Western world, it does. And he knows what he's talking about. He was not talking to us. He was talking to the Europeans. He was telling them that Turkey will defend its territory and will make sure that the fire that will spread in the region will not reach Turkey. What does that mean? Who started the fire? Who ignited the fire? And mind you, during all the time that during the almost 50 years of sanctions and siege that the US imposed on the Islamic Republic of Iran, the borders between Iran and Turkey never were shut. Despite the fact that they come from two different foreign policies, the friendship and the economic ties between Iran and Turkey never stopped. It's actually one of the most important markets for Iranian goods and vice versa. So yes, there might be a couple of things that they don't agree on and see eye to eye when it comes to foreign policy, but at the end of the day, when it's an existential threat, they will stand together, just like Pakistan said. Pakistan is a majority of Sunnis, and Iran is a majority of Shias, but they don't understand that we can operate the same way they do. I mean, what is the majority of believers in the US? Evangelicals. What is the majority in Europe? Actually, honestly, it's the non-believers. It's the people who don't believe in any higher entity. So they share nothing when it comes to ideology, but they have shared interest and shared security. So aren't we supposed to have, do we not have the right to have the same thing? Shared interest and shared security. I mean, look at China and Russia from day one. The Russian foreign ministry was initiating and putting out statements that are saying that Israel is playing with fire. It calls upon both sides to try and try and put an end to this domino effect that is going to take place. China has been amazing when it comes to its foreign policy position from the very start of the genocide against Gaza. We all remember the statements saying that not only Israel is breaking the law, but it is creating a tragedy, the tragedy of the century. So yes, we might not hear them making fiery statements the way that Pakistan, for example, did. But at the end of the day, this is how they deal with foreign policy. They don't want to have it out there to be criticized and to be put on the spotlight, but they can, for example, sell Iran the weapons that it needs. They can provide Iran with the armament that it needs. They can provide Iran with the routes for the armaments to reach. The only country that I really am very weary about, I'm really not feeling that it's going to be doing its duty towards its neighboring country is Azerbaijan. And ever since, I was in Iran with when President Raisi was killed. And this is the first time I ever say it on live TV anywhere. I don't think that it was an accident. None of us think that it was an accident, especially after the Patriots attack in Lebanon on September 17, 2024. We all immediately went back to the moment that the sole helicopter of the president fell, had an accident, killed them instantly. They were not flying that high, and no other helicopter found any risk in flying. But before they took off, they were in an Azerbaijani airport. And we all know the connection between Azerbaijan and the Israeli entity. You may call me a conspiracy theorist. I tell you from expertise, from what we've been through, it's near impossible that Israel has the technology and the capability to follow a tiny motorcycle in the highest hills and mountains in South Lebanon, successfully killing any member of the resistance, that it would not be easy for them to assassinate the president of Iran. Just as for me, it's nearly impossible for the Zionist entity with all the technology that it has, with Gaza being literally inside its territory, that on October 7th, they did not know what was happening. They knew, and they used the Hannibal directive against their own people because they were not happy with the number of deaths, because the number of deaths that came about from the Al-Aqsa flood operation were below 200. They wanted something that goes above 1,000. That's why they left them for nearly 13 hours. They left the resistance in Gaza to keep doing what they did for 13 hours. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
They knew. I'm so look. No, I'm not sorry. I need to say facts as they are. They knew. They took it into their hands to implement the Hannibal directive to terrorize their own public, whom they killed in on that day, and then they initiated phase one of the Greater Israel Plan. And now we are seeing Netanyahu going from phase to literally jumping from one phase to another without even finalizing the goals of the phase before it. And this, if it tells anything, it shouts out loud that Zionist Israel is in a very heavy predicament. They are in a very bad situation militarily, intelligence-wise, and also socially inside of their own communities. People are not happy. There are reports saying that there were multiple people who fled. And I'm talking people who were close to the authorities in Zionist Israel. We're hearing about how the community is erupting against the officials, especially the far right officials like Smotrich and Ben Gvir. And we're seeing how Netanyahu was only taken to one area that was hit by Tel Aviv, but it was contained. Real people were not there. He was able to pass through without anyone throwing stones on him because it was all coordinated for him to make a public appearance to say, look, I'm here with you. But we really don't know if he's there or not. Time will tell, because at the end of the day, history will come out one day or another. So we're looking, Rachel, at a tectonic plate movement in the region, something similar to the Sykes-Picot of the early 19th century, or what happened in dividing our nation by imperial powers. We are seeing a rebirth of a new Sykes-Picot, but it's going to be called the Greater Israel Plan. It's not going to work, because if Sykes-Picot had worked, they wouldn't have needed the Greater Israel Plan. It never does. Look, after hundreds of years of occupation of the Spanish in Latin America, of the French in Northern Africa, of the Americans, decades of occupation in Afghanistan, in Iraq, what did they achieve? Yes, they looted natural resources, but what did they achieve? Iraq is now far more powerful than it was when in 2003, the Americans, Bush, decided to invade it. Far more powerful. They have weapons they didn't have before, because they wanted to stand tall and say, this is our land, we will defend it. And look, it's not going through the American media, but since Saturday, there are Iraqi resistance groups that are operating against American bases and operating to down Israeli drones passing through Iraqi airspace. This is something that you will not hear in American media, but we see on a daily basis. We watch the videos, listen and read their statements. So what are they doing exactly? I think we have to wait and see, but whatever they decide to do, it will not be in their interests. Yes, we will pay a heavy price like we did here in Lebanon, but they were not able to eliminate us. They can't eliminate who? We are the natives to this region. There's nowhere else for us to go. This is why we're ready to die to stay here. And this is, I think, why the Iranians are showing so much restraint at the moment, because they want to try as much as possible to savior their people from witnessing what we witnessed here in our region. But at the end of the day, Iran will have to uh, uh, make a very, very bold move. Uh, I'm not going to talk about it, but they have to make a bold move to show that they are not afraid to use it.
Yeah, and exactly as you're laying it out there, and I really appreciate that explanation of where the region currently stands. And, we've been talking about this since the very beginning of, well, the latest phase of the genocide, right? Going back 20 months. And the fact that, Israel's targeting the Palestinians now, and then the Lebanese, and then the Syrians, and then the Iraqis. And it's like all of these politicians in the region, they need to be paying attention, because Israel's not going to stop there, exactly as you were noting. And the US clearly doesn't care about American interest. It's all in on whatever the latest thing is. It's trying to hurt the multipolar world. And there is a lot at stake here all around. But I really appreciate you taking the time to join me today to break down and to educate us on all of the latest here. Dr. Marwa Osman, a university lecturer, journalist, and TV host, thank you so much for your time and insight.
Thank you for having me on your show, Rachel. And we're hoping for the best for everyone on this planet. But at the end of the day, it is not in our hands. It's not in our control. We just pray for the best, and we pray for the evil that is taking over this world to be stopped.
If anything in this video resonated with you, be sure to like it, share it with your friends, leave a comment. And as always, don't forget to subscribe. And if you want to keep up with all of my work, make sure that you're subscribed to my page on Substack. That's rachelblevins.substack.com. That's where you'll find ad-free videos and new weekly episodes of my exclusive series for paid subscribers called Sanctioned. You can also check out Sanctioned over on my page on Patreon. That's patreon.com/Rachel Blevins. As always, thank you all so much for all of your support, and I'll see you next time.